river watering the garden flowed from Eden. From there, it was separated into 4 headwaters. The name of the first is Pishon. It winds through the entire land of Havilah, where there is gold. And the name of the second river is the Gihon. It winds through the entire land of Ethiopia, 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 Ethiopia.
Whether in the ancient Hebrew or in the Greek translation, the words have always been the same. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. But when was this beginning? And where was this land? And who were the inhabitants of this land?
In ancient times, long before the Suez Canal was built in 1869 in Egypt, there were numerous travel routes by land and sea between Africa and Palestine. Palestine was often just a buffer zone between major world powers in Africa and Asia.
Africa, Asia, and Europe meet at the Holy Land. But in terms of distance, Africa is much closer to the Holy Land than any part of Europe. Tel Aviv, for example, is only 244 miles from Cairo, Egypt. Rome, Italy, is approximately 1,400 miles from Tel Aviv. When you take a look at Paris, France, and London, England, then you begin to realize that these two locales are in excess of 2,000 miles from the Palestine area. Look at this. People for thousands and thousands of years have been walking and have been riding animals between Africa and the Holy Land.
This back and forth movement of people from different nations led to the creation of a diverse, multicultural population. With its geographic and historic closeness to Africa, there was a significant African population living in ancient Palestine. However, in their search to rediscover biblical history and peoples, Eurocentric scholars and archaeologists rarely explore or even acknowledge this obvious African connection. Dr. Kane Hope Felder, a professor of biblical studies and languages at the Howard University School of Divinity, has written several books on the black presence in the Bible. Dr. Felder led a team of filmmakers and biblical scholars from Howard University and Ashland Theological Seminary on a journey through the modern state of Israel and the occupied territories of Palestine, in search of the African presence in the Holy Land and the Bible, both past and present. This film is about their unusual journey through winding streets in Old Jerusalem, down the Jericho Road to the Dead Sea and Qumran, and to Dimona in the south of Israel. It documents a totally different perspective, setting the record straight on Africa and the Bible.
About ancient Africa and the Bible? Nothing.
Sorry. I have no idea. Someone just asked me this question the other day.
This is a shame because the religion I was raised up in, I knew my Bible.
Well, I know people say a lot of the characters in the Bible were black or African.
Well, Egypt's part of Africa, and Egypt is mentioned quite extensively in the Bible.
In the Old Testament, you had the Jews were building pyramids and were slaves in Egypt, which is part of Africa, and they escaped from there with the help of God, according to the Old Testament.
Indeed, Egypt is in Africa. For thousands of years, people from all over Africa, and not just Egypt, traveled and settled in the biblical land of Palestine, the Holy Land. The Bible reflects this with over 1,000 references to Africa and Africans. Without a doubt, the people of Africa played a significant role in the making of biblical history. Yet our image of the people in the Bible is solely European. Nearly all the biblical illustrations we see are of white people. Even the ancient Egyptians are portrayed as white. For most of us, the African presence in the Bible and the Holy Land is invisible. The Howard University film team was assisted by another group of African Americans interested in telling the story of Africa and the Bible. They have lived in Dimona, Israel for over 20 years and call themselves the African Hebrew community. Since coming to Israel, they have explored ancient and present-day connections with African communities in the Holy Land.
You have been here the last 20 years, and in this 20 years, have you encountered other black people or a black presence in other quarters here in Israel?
Definitely. Initially, to my surprise, because I didn't feel that there was a great black presence in this land. But after, naturally, our presence here, and we begin to journey in and around this land, we found that there are thousands of other blacks in this land. We find that there were blacks still immigrating to Israel 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, 10th centuries to this land. And this was quite a surprise to us in the beginning. But there are thousands of other blacks, Africans from all parts of Africa, in this land.
The African Hebrew community is generally not accepted as authentic by modern Israeli and Jewish officials. Nevertheless, they have been successful in maintaining a community of about 2,000 in Israel for over 20 years.
Jerusalem is a city which is 5,000 years old. People from every corner of the earth come as pilgrims and tourists here to Jerusalem in search of their personal and religious identity.
We know Jerusalem best as a contested city, split between two religions, between Arabs and Jews, between the old and the new. If you come to Jerusalem as a tourist, you probably won't learn that African communities have lived here for tens of hundreds of years, or that there is an African presence associated with some of the most holy places in this ancient city. The Ethiopian Orthodox Christian Church is one of the most ancient Christian churches in the world. They have maintained a constant presence in Jerusalem for over 1,500 years in a vigil at the most holy site for all Christians, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which was built in 335 A.D. Ethiopian Christians were among the earliest occupants of the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But the Ethiopians also claim an even longer presence in Jerusalem, dating from the time of King Solomon. Abba Athanasius, the Archbishop of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church in Jerusalem, explained their position.
This place was possessed by the Ethiopians in BC 1008. This place is given by King Solomon to the famous empress, the Queen of Sheba, when she visited Jerusalem for the first time. Since that time, Ethiopians have been coming here to worship God, and this was the place where they have been resting. In reality, Jesus Christ was crucified here. The main road that time was under the ladders down there. And when you go to the Holy Sepulchre,
yes,
you go down, you descend.
Yes.
So our fathers tell us that Jesus was crucified here on the mountainous area.
In the 19th century, the Ethiopians were displaced from the Holy Sepulchre by the Egyptian Coptic Church. They were not able to return to their chapels until 1961. Today, Ethiopian monks and sisters hold a constant vigil atop the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, where they live in tiny, unheated cubicles, in the continuation of Ethiopia's historic vigil over the place of the crucifixion and burial of Jesus Christ. Christians believe that the Church of the Holy Sepulchre sits on Calvary, the place where Jesus of Nazareth was crucified. The narrow road leading to the church is called the Via Dolorosa, the Way of Sorrow. This is the road down which Jesus of Nazareth, stumbling and badly beaten, carried his cross to Calvary. There are 14 stations along the Via Dolorosa commemorating important events that took place on Jesus' trek to Calvary. The 5th station celebrates an African man named Simon from the land of Cyrene in North Africa.
We stand here on the Via Dolorosa at the 5th station along which Jesus bared the cross. Traditionally, there's been observed this as one of the significant places marking that point at which Simon of Cyrene from North Africa assisted Jesus in bearing the cross.
Dr. Dolores Carpenter, professor at the Howard University School of Divinity and pastor of Michigan Park Christian Church in Washington, D.C., added more on the significance of Simon of Cyrene in uncovering Africa in the Bible.
That is a marker event for us, that Simon carried that cross, that we were there early, that we played an important part. And so we do find this hermeneutical power in this text. Not only that he was an African man, but the cross that he carried, and he carried it for Jesus. That gives us a place for all time.
In the beginning of time, God created the earth.
In the beginning was God.
I guess I do believe in the theory of Adam and Eve. with creation 7 days.
Back then, 7 days could have been 7 years in his time, so...
Well, it's hard to say. Way before my time.
I have no idea. It's hard enough figuring out the beginning of the week.
I would have to believe that it has to do a lot with the Bible and Adam and Eve and...
I don't know if it's possible for us to determine, because is there ever a beginning to time? I mean, is there a beginning or an end? It's infinite, so there really is no beginning. It's a constantly evolving process.
We are here in the old city of Jerusalem at the Wailing Wall. And for all devout Jews who come from around the world to this very place, the question of time is extremely important. For us, it is the year 1991. But for the devout Jew, we can see, as per the Jerusalem Post on this very day, that the year is 5752, showing the continued influence of the ancient lunar calendar. Or if you are a Muslim, time would begin with the Hijra, the year 622 A.D. In fact, this marks the beginning of Muhammad's migration from Mecca to Medina, the city of the Prophet. For you, as a Muslim, this therefore would be the year 1367. In our modern society, we know, for example, this is 1991. It's a matter of simple fact, since we follow the Gregorian calendar. The Gregorian calendar is based on the Greco-Roman or Julian calendar. Usually what is not known is that this Julian dating is based upon the much earlier Egyptian solar calendar, the very first calendar in Western civilization. It had 365 1/4 days. According to the Egyptian calendar, the present year is not 1991. Rather, the present year is 6227. Again, the question of time is a matter of one's historical perspective and one's religious orientation.
Here we see evidence of Africa in the ancient Kidron Valley written of so much in the Old Testament. The pyramid aloft the tomb of the prophet Zechariah is situated right below the city walls of ancient Jerusalem. It reminds us that the search for biblical beginnings must include Africa. African presence in the Holy Land is not limited to the history of Judaism and Christianity. Africans were also important participants in the history of Islam. They were with Islamic armies and pilgrims during their conquest of Jerusalem beginning in the 8th century. Descendants of Africans who were part of this Islamic movement still live in Old Jerusalem near Islam's third holiest site, Harem esh-Sharif, where sit the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. We visited this African community living in Old Jerusalem on Prison Gate Street. Ali Jiddah, a Palestinian of African descent, showed us a permanent African community in Jerusalem that is rarely seen.
This here is the African quarter, and I hadn't even realized that there was such a substantial population of African people.
Well, we are about 90 families in this place, you see. And
90 families?
Yeah, and we are in two sections, you see. This is the place which is called Habs al-Robat.
Habs al-Robat?
Because during the Turkish Empire, it used to be a prison. Habs al-Robat means the jail of the handcuffed. While the other section that you are going to enter now is called Habs al-Dam, the blood jail.
The blood jail?
Blood jail. People who used to be sentenced.
Where is that? Over here?
Over here. We can have a look over there.
And this here is the blood jail.
Much like African Americans today with English language names, These Africans were given Arabic names, language, and Islam as their new religion.
Concerning the black communities in general, the black community is very, very deeply rooted in this land in Palestine. And once we talk about the black community, we are talking about not less than 50,000, because you have black Africans, not only just here in Jerusalem, you can find them everywhere in the West Bank, inside the Greenland, you can find them even in Gaza Strip, and sometimes it will be totally stunned. If you go to some regions, if you will be in Gaza Strip, there are some refugee camps, you will find out that the majority of the people, residents, are black Palestinians over there.
على الدين البصيري هذول كل هذا تاريخ الإسلام الفرع فتوح الإسلام كانوا كلهم اجوا هون في بيت المقدس هون وفي شيء تم منهم من هون وفي شيء راح على افريقيا وبعدين كل سنه بيهجوا وبيجوا لهون اما الاساس يوم فتوها الاسلام هناك تاريخ الفرع مش من جديد.
What the Mukhtar said concerning the history of the black community in Palestine, it is very old. It began with the, let's say, the Islam, when the Islam began opening these areas, and mainly during the period of Caliph Umar bin Khattab. So most of those Africans who used to come to Palestine with the Islamic armies, you see, they used to come, sometimes they stay over here, and sometimes they do the pilgrimage. They go to Mecca and they come back. So the history of the black community in Palestine is not a new one. It's a very, very old one. We, as sons and daughters of Africa, we have the same destiny everywhere. We are oppressed all everywhere in the world. We had never oppressed any nation, but all the nations are oppressing us, sons and daughters of Africa. We as black Palestinians, we are the most oppressed and the most discriminated in this country by the Israeli occupation. The only word they just call us, they say to us Cush, which means nigger, the most insulting. We have been facing a lot of troubles, and especially since the beginning of the Israeli occupation.
During the European slave trade, the myth was told that Africans had no history, no real religion, and even no soul. But from Jerusalem, we see an historic African past of great antiquity.
There has always been an African presence in the Holy Land. We go back again to the Bible. We have mentions of people whose name was Cushi or Cush. We have specific names of people like Ebed-Melech. And if you look at the Christian Bible, there is a very fascinating story about some Africans who came to the land of Israel to worship in the Jewish temple. I am referring to the Ethiopian eunuch. I don't think he was a single person. He was riding a chariot. I don't think he was alone.
The New Testament book of Acts states that the Ethiopian was baptized along the Gaza Road. According to tradition, that was the beginning of Christianity in Ethiopia.
On the shores of the Dead Sea, 40 miles north of Masada, we encounter these ancient ruins of Qumran. In 1947, the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered in these distant caves in the far hills here at Qumran. The scrolls, it is widely believed, may contain vital information on the nature of Jewish and Christian institutions of the first century. However, in all of the investigations and scholarly research to date, scarcely has anyone raised the question of the ethnic or racial identity of these ancient inhabitants of Qumran.
Many people are searching for the answers to life, peace, and happiness in our biblical past. We are finding more questions than answers. But one thing we can be certain of, our ancient foreparents built a world without racial prejudice.
Color wasn't so much of an issue for those people. Ethnicity really in the ancient world pretty much, I think, depended on strong religious forms of ritual, forms of beliefs, not so much a racial question.
Despite what we see on television or in biblical depictions, the African presence is significant in many quarters of the Holy City of Jerusalem. At the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, the Via Dolorosa, and the African Quarter, the importance of Africa's past history and presence radiates. Africans have been highly significant in the three great faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Reclaiming the African presence in biblical beginnings allows people of all backgrounds and races to see themselves in the great heritages of faith and unity given to us thousands of years ago. It may be our best hope for peace.
Joseph has a dream. In this dream, an angel comes to Joseph and says, "Look, Joseph, take the baby Jesus, take your wife Mary, and flee to Egypt." Look at this. The angel did not say, go to London, England. The angel did not say, go to Paris, France. The angel suggests that Joseph takes his family and flee to Egypt.
Africans have been Christian before there was Christianity, and it's wonderful to know that we are reclaiming that part of our heritage.
It is the modern world that has really, very unfortunately, put a great value on color difference, on racial difference, and confused us.